Now I come to big lie number 2, the H1N1 pandemic. Before I approach the H1N1 pandemic, I would like to talk to you about the Spanish flu, the Spanish influenza epidemic of 1918. This epidemic was caused by vaccinations. You'll find this in Swine Flu Expose by Eleonora I. McBean. A very important side note. To learn the truth about the evils of vaccination, go to www.whale.to/vaccines. This will take you to the vaccine website. It is loaded with excellent information about the evils of vaccinations. Now I would like to quote you Dr. Andrew Moulton. He made a very important statement. Vaccinations are causing impaired blood flow, which is known as ischemia, chronic illness, disease, and death for us all. The Spanish influenza epidemic of 1918 was caused by vaccinations. Eleonora McBean, PhD, naturopathic doctor, wrote a very interesting book titled Swine Flu Expose. In chapter 2, titled The Spanish Influenza Epidemic of 1918 was caused by vaccinations, it deals with how the Spanish flu of 1918 started. Eleonora was a young child at the time of the Spanish flu. She was an on-the-spot observer of the flu epidemic. She speaks as an eyewitness to the Spanish flu. What follows explains in detail the horrors of the Spanish flu. I quote, the 1918 influenza was not the flu Americans were familiar with. It was a horror that turned victims bluish black, then drowned them with their own body fluids. The death toll was the highest in the ages 15 to 40, those in the peak of health. The victims would be fine 1 minute and in the next incapacitated, fever-racked and delirious. Temperatures rose to 104, 106 degrees. The skin turned blue, purple, deep brown from a lack of oxygen. Massive pneumonia attacked the lungs, filling them with fluids. Blood gushed from the nose. Death was quick, savage, and terrifying. You'll find this at www.fightbackhone1.com. Dr. McBean also states, the 1918 Spanish influenza was a vaccine-induced disease caused by extreme body poisoning from the conglomeration of many different vaccines. The doctors at Fort Dix in 1976, who were said to have had the swine flu, had been injected with a large variety of vaccines, like the vaccines which caused the 1918 flu epidemic. The flu epidemic at Fort Dix was in no way related to swine. The soldiers were given anywhere between 14 to 25 vaccine shots. Imagine what happens to the human body when it is injected by so many viruses all at once. It is very interesting to hear Eleonora speak about viruses. She states, one dictionary definition of virus is a morbid poison. The vaccines injected into the body are poison and cause the typical poison reactions. Virus, poison, does not fly around and attack people. Therefore, there will be no swine flu epidemic unless the vaccine promoters make one like they did in the 1918 flu epidemic. She also makes a very interesting point about the method by which the body is invaded by viruses. She states, when poison is injected by mouth, the internal defense system has a chance to quickly eject some of it by vomiting, but when the poisons are shot directly into the body, bypassing all the natural safeguards, these dangerous poisons circulate immediately through the entire body in a matter of seconds and keeps on circulating until all the cells are poisoned. This is what happens to all the cells of our body. They're poisoned by vaccination, by the flu shot. Those who refused the flu shot escaped the flu. We can learn so much from Eleonora's observations of the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. She states, "The pandemic dragged on for 2 years, kept alive with the addition of more poison drugs administered by doctors who tried to suppress the symptoms. As far as I could find out, the flu hit only the vaccinated. Those who had refused the shots escaped the flu. My family had refused all vaccinations, so we remained well all the time. We knew from the health teachings of Graham, Trail, and Tilden and others that people cannot contaminate the body with poisons without causing disease. When the flu was at its peak, all the stores were closed, as well as all schools, businesses, even the hospital, as the doctors and nurses had been vaccinated too and were down with the flu. No one was on the streets. It was like a ghost town. We seemed to be the only family which didn't get the flu, so my parents went from house to house doing what they could to look after the sick, as it was impossible to get a doctor to them. If it were possible for germs, bacteria, virus, or bacilli to cause disease, they had plenty of opportunity to attack my parents when they were spending many hours a day in sick rooms. But they didn't get the flu, and they didn't bring any germs home to attack us children and cause anything. None of our family had the flu, not even a sniffle, and it was in a winter with deep snow on the ground. This is in chapter 2. I would like to repeat Eleonora's words. They're so important. Those who refused the shots escaped the flu. In the following words, she's very clear in her profession as a naturopathic doctor as to the cause of millions of deaths during the Spanish flu. She states, "It has been said that the 1918 flu epidemic killed 20 million people throughout the world. But actually, the doctors killed them with their crude and deadly treatment and drugs. This is a harsh accusation, but it is nevertheless true. Judging by the success of the drugless doctors in comparison with that of the medical doctors." She justifies this statement with the following information, and this is so important what I'm going to tell you. While the medical men in medical hospitals were losing 33%, I repeat, 33% of their flu cases, the non-medical hospitals such as Battle Creek, Kellogg, and McFadden's Health Restorium were getting almost 100% healings with their water cure, their baths, their enemas, etc., fasting, and certain other simple healing methods, followed by carefully worked out diets of natural foods. One health doctor didn't lose a patient for 8 years. If the medical doctors had been as advanced as the drugless doctors, there would not have been those 20 million deaths from the medical flu treatment. The life-saving choice. So the life-saving question arises, which type of doctors do you want to seek out during a pandemic? A medical doctor who will prescribe drugs, or a naturopathic doctor who practices alternative medicine, such as homeopathy and many other methods? The choice is very evident, isn't it? Alternative medicine is the best life-saving answer in a flu pandemic. On to my next talk, I would like to give you an idea of the subtitles. I'll be speaking about Beware of the World Health Organization, otherwise known as WHO. Then Jane Burgermeister warns against the WHO, followed with squalene as a deadly adjuvant. Next, the damage done by vaccines such as H1N1. If forced vaccinated, where do you turn to for help? And I finish with my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. Thank you.